So we'll start, Member Fonte.
My name is Dominic Fonte, and I live in the community. I've been here for a good 26 years. I've been an entrepreneur, so I really appreciate the garage talk, the Shark Tank. So look me up afterwards. I like to get into that a little more with you guys. But I've been an entrepreneur for 30 years in the real estate industry. I raised 5 children and my wife, and then we have 2 grandchildren. We live in North Canton. And it's been a great community. I've earned a lot of income over the years, helped over 1,700 families buy or sell real estate. So it's been a great community. So I wanted to give back to the community, and I thought, you know, when the opportunity came up for the city council position, I got appointed for the first year and 3 months, and then I ran for election. This is my 2nd election. So it's been like, it'll be heading on 4 years here before too long. And I'm in charge of streets and alleys, so when you see how the cold weather wreaks havoc on the roads, you know, it'll be me you can yell at. But I'm learning a lot about binding and the temperatures and so forth. But basically, I'm giving back to the community. I'm doing the best I can. I'm not a politician. I'm just a regular person trying to make a difference. The type of job I had, it was always results driven. So I never get paid unless a result comes in. So that's why I'm trying to help out. And as long as I feel I can make a difference, I'll stick at it. But if you guys have any questions, I'm always looking for young entrepreneurial ideas. The garage, never heard of it. I learned so much today from Mr. Trezone, and it's very impressive. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Warren, and I'm actually your council person because this is my ward, Ward 3. So you may have seen my signs throughout, and hopefully you never defaced them. That's not nice to do to politicians. So I've been here for, I guess I just ran again, and that was my 3rd term, so almost 7 years. And we had moved into the community only, I think, for 9 years. So I'm kind of new to North Canton, so I consider myself that person that says, well, what else are other communities doing? I don't think we always have to reinvent what's going on. We can look at other communities and say, hey, they're doing this really well. Let's learn and collaborate with them. I'm also the Director of Leadership Stark County, and we work a lot with Walsh and have been amazing partners. We're actually coming up here in June for our Citizenship Day, so that might be yet another opportunity. Oh, you guys will be gone. You're already, well, maybe the summer school people can come to that day. And last year Mayor Held and a number of other mayors spoke on that day. But so we're all about leadership. We have a 1,300 group of individuals that are part of our signature program. We have a spotlight program that some of you will be a part of. It's kind of for right after college and then up to about 35. But this year we're starting a youth academy, which for some of you that are now freshmen this year, for high school students, where we're going to look at all 17 districts and bringing 2 people from each school together, which when you think about where you came from, that just doesn't happen a lot, and there's a lot of different factions, and it's really just by proximity. So if we can get that group thinking and working together, we're really excited about that. I have triplets that graduated last year, so one's at Ohio State in engineering, or attempting to be in engineering, and 2 girls who are identical at the Naval Academy. Also trying to pass calc and chemistry. It's been a hard academic semester, but really love it. The neat thing is one of the things they do at the academy is they do a lot of these peer reviews, and I think most of you don't have peer reviews, and you don't get that later till you're reviewed annually. But the neat thing is you take little old Stark County, little North Canton, and you don't know how you're going to fare when you go to college with all these other kids. And the neat thing with what they've learned from Stark County, from our community, is how to respect people, how to treat others, and how to really kind of have a positive spirit about what they're doing each day. So I'm proud of this community. This was my way of giving back as well, and I'm really happy to be here also. So thank you very much.
I apologize for being late. I was at a meeting at work. Thank you, President Trezone, for hosting this tonight. This is very exciting. I actually have a daughter who graduated with her bachelor's from here, and she's in the physical therapy school right currently. My name is Marcia Kiesling. I've been on council since 2001. I was off for a 2-year term and then came back, so I just won my 8th election. I originally ran because there actually was an issue, and Daryl and I went to church together, and he was the mayor at the time, and we spoke a lot about it. It got me very involved. I was very young at the time. And when the opening came when it came open, I decided to put my name in, and I was being sworn in, looking at my husband with a 6-month-old and a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old saying, what the heck did I just do? But here I am almost 17 years later, and I'm still on it. I love it. I love every minute of it. I'm also a nurse practitioner, so I bring a little different view to this group. It's not a very common thing to be a nurse or a nurse practitioner and be an elected official, but it actually helps me a lot in what I do every day as well. It's certainly my committees and my leadership at the hospital. I work at Alton Hospital. But I think I bring a little different role here too. So I've really enjoyed my time on council. My kids have very, very much enjoyed it. They've helped me every step of the way. I think Walsh is near and dear to us in this community, and we're thrilled that they're letting us have this here tonight, and hopefully we can continue to collaborate. So thanks, President.
Good evening. My name is Darrell Revolt. I am the oldest and newest member of this body. I'm retired. I've had a career in government and economic development and business, and rejoined this group in November of last year. You're in a very, very special place tonight, and I think what, if you have one takeaway from watching us, and President Gissom would acknowledge this, is that nothing happens without individual effort and participation. I hope that as you leave this place after 4 years, degree in hand, that a small part of your education includes this notion that you're a citizen of the community in which you reside. And that title carries with it responsibilities that extend beyond simply showing up to vote. It means actually participating. And as I look to my right and to my left, many of these people have done exactly that over the years. And the successes that the community has enjoyed with Walsh and in other directions stems directly from their willingness to be involved. Nobody can force you to do it, but I will tell you this, and watch their faces. It can be a whole lot of fun. And so I would encourage you to get out and have some fun as you establish your lives and your careers. So that's it. Not about me.
Thanks, Joe. As I mentioned, I'm Mark Soretta. Grew up here. Went to school at Hoover. Came back from college, been involved in a lot of different things over the years in schools and sporting, a lot of youth activities and so on. Just kind of work your way up through the community with those type of events. I worked for Pfizer Pharmaceuticals for 36 years. I've been in every position that has kept me here because I never wanted to move. Managing, marketing, management development, training for kids. So anything just to keep me here without going anywhere else, because this is a very special place here. My kids I got 3 kids, 2 grandchildren, 2 on the way. My wife teaches at Orchard Hill down the road there for 4th grade. So I'm pretty much ingrained, and I still know a lot of people that are in town. So it's a good fit for being a city councilman after a lot of different activities and so on. I do enjoy it. It's got a lot of its ups, and I don't really have many downs with it. I think it's like coaching. I've said this before. You know, you're doing the best you can to move the ball down the field. And there's going to be a lot of people who don't agree with how you run the plays and so on, but you just keep moving the ball down the field with your plan. And there may be people that say, oh, don't give me the right attention or so on, but you've got to stick with your plan and get some touchdowns. Every now and then you're going to fumble, but and we're making a lot of touchdowns here in North Canton. I'm really proud of that. So up to you, Doug.
Thank you. I'm Doug Foltz, Ward 1 Councilman. I appreciate those students here tonight. President Gissom, just Walsh College University. It's going to be a university, it was a college earlier, but very proud to have that in North Canton. My wife is a graduate of Walsh University, very proud of that. I have 3 children, Ashley, Tyler, and Stephen. And I'm lived in North Canton for 33 years. I've been on council for 23 years. And the reason I ran for council, I worked in government my whole life, is because I'm passionate about my community, my neighborhood, Parks and Recreation, which is my current profession now, and I just wanted to give back. People here at this table don't do it for the money or the benefits, they do it for their love of community. Because you spend a lot of hours, a lot of Monday nights, and a lot of other preparation to get ready for the meetings, and a lot of talking to residents and neighbors and trying to solve problems. And to me, when you can help in that regard, that's the most beneficial thing you can do. A little civics lesson, there's 4 wards in North Canton. There's 3 at-large council people, so there's 7 of us total. As mentioned earlier, This is in Ward 3, across the street. Just north of us is Ward 2. The dividing line is North and South Main, and then East and West Maple. So I'm the northwest end of the community where the City Hall is and the Civic Center. So that's Ward 1, Ward 2 directly north of us, Ward 3, and then Ward 4 with Dominic on the end. So that's how the city's split up. And as a ward councilman, you always look out for your ward as far as issues, complaints, street improvement, so forth first. But overall, we all want to work together to make good things happen for North Canton. So I appreciate the passion that the students have had. And yes, I'd love to come here every year. And I welcome any Walsh students to contact me after the meeting if they want to get involved with community service for our North Canton Parks or our Canton Parks and Recreation, which I recently took a position there as their director. So please stop and see me or give me a call, and I'd be willing to help and work with you in those facets of the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doug. I think there's a common theme here, and for everyone, if you haven't caught on by now, the elected officials that are standing up here are public servants. We're not politicians. I think based on what you've heard, we all live in this community. We've born in this community, raising children, grandchildren. This is a very special place, and this is a very special college to be here. So my name is Jeff Peters. I've been councilman for about 12 years, been council president for about 3. Enjoy every minute of it, even the folks that that takes to task every Monday night. It's challenging. We do it because we love this community and we want to leave it better than what we inherited it, and we will continue to do so. So again, thank you, President Gisson, Dr. Akers. We'll turn it over to the administration side.
Hi, I'm Tim Fox. I'm the city's law director. I didn't grow up in North Canton. I grew up in Dover. I joined the Air Force when I was 18, lived and worked around the world for 21 years, and went to school at night. During that time, I had the opportunity to live in some really wonderful locations. There's a lot of places that you go on vacation. Destin, Florida, Boston, Massachusetts, Madrid, Spain, Italy, Germany, California. And during all of that time, it was always in the back of my mind of looking for the place of where I want to retire and start a new career. And in every one of those locations, it always was something that drew me back, that the sense of community. In my mind, Dover and North Canton aren't that much different. Residents, they each take pride in their community, in their homes, and the first time I had the opportunity to go to school full-time was in Cincinnati Law School. When I was ready to graduate, my wife and mother-in-law were looking for homes up and around this area, and one of the ones that they had shown me, I would go up on the weekend. You can almost see it from here. It's on Walsh, right across the street from the ball fields. But when we were driving in, we drove by Walsh University, and I said, how close are we? And then, no, we're right here. And I said, you've got to be kidding me. We're going to live right next to a university. And I was imagining fraternities, Animal House, and parties, and noise, and all of that you might expect to live next door to a major university. And she had said, no, I've looked into this. I knew you were going to have that issue. You're going to give me this hard no on this. And I've talked to the people, and she said, you'll see, ask. And so I did. I asked the people that, Giant Eagle, other stores and so forth, I asked about students and the feeling that those that lived around this university had about the university, and your day-to-day interactions, and absolutely everything that I heard was positive, that Walsh students are polite, respectful, involved in their community. And I've been here since 2006, and that's exactly what it was. So I'm here because I wish to be, because I feel that I'm drawn here, and I'm really proud to be the city's law director, because I help put some of the things that residents and council members and administration envision, put that together through legislation and economic development. So thank you for having us here, and certainly it's a wonderful idea, and hope that we do this again next year. Thank you.
I'm Laura Brown, I'm the city's director of finance, and like Tim, I didn't grow up in North Canton, and I probably shouldn't admit this here, but I'm a Malone graduate. And although we're crosstown rivals, we all know the value. We all know the value of getting an education at a smaller institution and getting that personal attention. And like Tim, I chose to stick it in North Canton after I graduated from Malone because it seemed like such a wonderful community. So I would encourage all the students here to consider starting your career and staying in this area because it's a great place to live and work. And I appreciate being invited here, and any of those students that went out and did lots of tax returns and helped all those folks, I'd love to talk to them. Maybe we could use some of their help around the city. So thank you.
Very good. Yes, David Held. I'm the mayor in North Canton. I began serving back in 2005, and just prior to that, I had served as a city administrator. Lived in North Canton. My wife grew up in North Canton, and I started out my high school years at St. Edward High School. So very familiar with the Catholic education, and went to St. Brendan's grade school. And back in, when I was going to grade school, I thought that everybody in the community was either Irish, Italian, or German Catholic. And you know, it was a great experience. Then went to St. Edward's and was on the wrestling team there. And you know, loved going to St. Ed's. Ended up going to Edinburgh University. And then after I graduated from Edinburgh, I got into medical sales. And started out, well actually I've got to admit, I started out as a mortgage-backed bond assistant. Because I thought, boy, I want to make a lot of money. So maybe I'll just get into investments. And I did that, and I was not a good fit for that. Because they had me working on an Excel spreadsheet all day long. And my personality, I didn't recognize it at the time. I was not somebody that should be working on an Excel spreadsheet all day long. I'm sure some of you that know me know that that would not be a good thing for me to do. So that lasted like 3 months, and then the next thing I thought I'd do is I'd become a recruiter, because that seemed like it paid a lot. So I thought that would be a good idea. I'd go and recruit people for a job, for companies. Even though I didn't have a job, I was going to go out and find other people a job. So I worked there for 3 months, and there was a pharmaceutical sales position that opened up that I was supposed to recruit for, so I recruited myself to the job. And I did that for a little over a year, and then took a job as a medical sales rep for Zimmer. And so we sold the hip and knee replacements, and I did that for nearly 10 years. We take the equipment, the hips, the knees, and we take it in there for the procedure. Learned a whole lot in that position. And then after that I got into public service. And during that time, and I don't think that our president understands my experience here at Walsh. I did take 2 classes at Walsh. 2 master's level classes. Anybody want to guess what 2 classes I took?
Jim.
Gymnasium, exactly. Wrestling, yes. No, not gym, not physical education. Go ahead. Anybody want to take a shot at it? I hope it's not reflective of my role up here, but go ahead and take a shot.
Abnormal psychology.
You knew. Did you look that up? That is the truth. I took abnormal psychology.
I was just kidding.
It was really the truth. That was an incredible guess. You must have looked that up on the transcripts. Abnormal psychology and human development. I took those 2 classes. Yes, I did pass them, by the way. And so, you know, I've always been fascinated with how, you know, the mind works and how the body works and, you know, achievement. And I think that's one thing that I would share with you. And this is coming from somebody who was always very, very ambitious. You know, very ambitious, always wanted to succeed. Never wanted to fail. Always wanted to succeed. And one of the things that I've learned is one of my biggest failures is being afraid to fail. It's that fear of failure that was really so restrictive for so many years. Because you have a tendency, it's human nature, we want to look good. We don't want to look bad. We don't want to say the wrong thing. We don't want to make a mistake. And I can tell you, you can get as much education as you want, and you got a fine institution right here. But you know, the biggest thing is half the battle, I think, is showing up. And the other thing is, and this is coming from a man who has 5 daughters and 1 son, that everybody has a different perspective. Everybody does. So like, as our president, Richard Jusseau, mentioned to me, and this goes to show you how the perspectives are different. The first time we met, he said, Mayor, I'm not sure that anybody here in this community even knows that Walsh is here. I said, isn't that incredible? That is fantastic. I'm looking at it from the mayor's point of view. I'm looking at it saying, we got all these thousands of students that are here in the city, and we have no problems. It's like we've got students that are well behaved, there's no issues, but then as a president, you're looking at it from a different perspective. And so each one of us, especially going with the camera theme here, every council member, every elected official, everybody brings their own perspective. So as we're making decisions here tonight, I can assure you the finance director is looking through her lens with the financial lens. And the law director is looking at it through the legal lens. And the council president is looking at it through how do I keep order in the meeting. And everybody had, and then the 4th ward and the 1st and 2nd ward looking out for their constituents in that ward. And the engineers looking at it from the engineer's perspective, and the clerk. So the one thing that I would say is that another thing that I really missed, and I think it was because I was so ambitious for the next thing. Constantly looking for what am I going to do next? What's going to be my next job? And I missed out on doing the very best that I could at the present job, whether it's cleaning the floors or anything along those lines. And the one key thing that I'll leave with you, and this I wish I would have learned this earlier, is think of the other person's perspective. No matter who you're working with, whether it's your siblings, your coworkers, especially when you get married, it's really important to think of the other person's perspective. And raising kids. So I would challenge you in 2 things. Show up. Don't be afraid to show up. Don't be afraid to fail. And the second thing is always think of the perspective of the person that you're working with. So hopefully you'll see a lot of perspectives up here tonight. And Mr. President, this is beautiful. This place is amazing. Going by at 35 miles an hour, well, I think what's the speed limit, 25?
Too high.
Okay, 35, we're okay,
Too
that's
high.
what I meant, 35, right? You really don't appreciate it until you're in the building here. So it's a beautiful, beautiful place.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rob Graham. I'm the city engineer. I'm in charge of basically maintenance and improvements to our city's infrastructure. Not a North Canton alum, but did grow up in the area. Canton South graduate, and also graduated civil engineering degree from The Ohio State University. A couple things we're working on out here in the area is we have some grants in fiscal year 2020 to upgrade the pedestrian aspects of the campus, of the whole East Maple Street corridor. And one of the things we hope to even have up yet this year, we were able to warrant a traffic signal at your new West Gate. So we actually have the poles in order. I'd like to they take about 16 weeks to get those in. And we've got grant money that will pay for all that. And I hope to get them in by the time classes resume in August. So that'll be a big help.
Huge.
So, yep.
And that's what is it? Like close to $3 million in grants on this end of the city, which is really nice.
We want to beautify the campus and kind of pull the theme of downtown and all the streetscape elements there, pull it out here, because, you know, to make you feel part of the community as well. I think that'll go a long way, pedestrian, bike facilities, whatnot. Yeah, and I didn't know you had your recruiting background, Mayor. I just started here in June after 25 years in the private sector, so I'm completely new to government, how government works, but see how you're able to twist me out of that. I've enjoyed every minute of it so
So we're
far.
glad we recruited you, right? And talking about mistakes here, right? See, we made a little switch here. See, we just go right with the flow. Everybody thought I was the engineer at first. Very good.
My name is Mary Beth Bailey, and I'm the council clerk for the city. I've been with North Canton going on 4 years. I've been in this line of work for going on 17 years, and I've been in the public sector going on 30 years. So I know nothing else but working in the public sector. And I've enjoyed working with these guys. I am responsible for running the office. The law director and I work hand in hand together. Council relies on me to give them the proper information that is needed, and a lot of times their constituents will call me first because they don't know who to begin with. So I usually try to solve the issue for them before I pass them off to the council. So even though they're part-time, we work very close together on a daily basis. So, and I enjoy it. So thank you for having us here.
All right, thank you very much. Now at this time, as president of council, it's my job to make sure we stay on task and on time, and I'm about 20 minutes over, so we will get started with our regular special council meeting. I'd like to call to order the special council meeting Monday, April 9th, 2018 at 7:21 p.m. Opening prayer is by Mr. Phil Pillen.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here. Thank you all for being here. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gift of our lives and our abilities. We thank you for this great collaboration between Walsh University and North Canton. Please bless all these servant leaders that they may continue to make wise decisions for our community. Bless all of us here and keep us close to you and your will. We ask this in Christ's name, and all the people said, Amen.
All right. If I could ask you to please stay standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Clerk, please call the roll. Here. Here.
Here. Casey.
Here.
Peters.
Here.
Holt.
Here.
And Waring.
Here.
7 present, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. First up for your consideration, a motion and a second to approve as presented the special committee of the whole meeting minutes February 26, 2018, council meeting minutes February 26, 2018, committee of the whole meeting minutes March 5th, 2018, executive session meeting minutes March 5th, 2018, financial reports February and March 2018, and mayor's court receipts February 2018.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it by unanimous vote, 4-7.
All right, thank you. At this time, we are moving into our recognition of visitors portion of the meeting. We open it up to community members, students, if you have any comments, concerns, criticisms. At this time, please step to the microphone, state your name, address, and we don't have the timer, so we have a 5-minute time limit, so I'm going to keep the timer on here.
And positives too, by the way, Jeff, you didn't mention that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
You don't have to say all negative.
Positives are welcome.
I'll try to be positive. Melanie J. Roll, 308 Porty Street, North Canton. Good evening. I will address my remarks to Ordinance 19-2018, which is known as the Omni Agreement. And I shall read Section 3 of Ordinance 19-2018. That this council has determined it is in the best interest of the city's health, welfare, and safety to authorize and continue the sale of water to Omni without requiring it to agree to annex into the city now or in the future. My opposition to the Omni agreement is twofold. First, selling water to this property will generate about $10,000 of revenue to the city each year. And this revenue is mandated to go to an enterprise fund. And this water enterprise fund can only be spent on water-related projects. If this property is annexed into the city, employees of this medical facility will pay income tax calculated at about $100,000 a year. And all income tax is directed to the city's general fund. Among other expenditures, the general fund is responsible for the payment of salaries of police, fire, and EMS. I ask, if you had the choice to receive $10,000 a year or $100,000 a year to maintain your homes, with the $10,000 restricted to lawn care, or the $100,000 to any house expenditures, which would you choose? Second, because this property is contiguous to the western border of the city, not requiring annexation would set a dangerous precedent. Other property owners would resist annexation. What is the plan for North Canton to grow its borders and its income base? I argue for annexation. If not now, when? Defeat Ordinance 19-2018. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. Okay. Anyone else wishing to address council, please step forward, state your name and address.
Chuck Osborne, 307 Fairview Street, Southeast, North Canton, Ohio. Just to educate some of the younger ones here, I'm a former city councilman. I was on council probably when most of y'all were starting elementary school back in 2001. I also was a mayoral candidate in 2003. Let me just tell you, when you start questioning government and questioning the process and the system, it's not conducive to staying in elective office. They will make sure they pass on that you're a troublemaker. Mayor, I thought your comments were quite interesting. You said everybody has a different perspective, and I agree with you. Then I would also ask, why is everything on council votes unanimous? We don't see any dissenting opinion, any questioning of the process, anything. I would suggest, Mayor, that everybody on council be given a class on groupthink. Anyway, I hadn't planned on that. We'll start out with the same topic Mrs. Rowe brought up, ordinance number 19-2018. And I guess it should be defeated. 2 weeks ago, Mr. Soretta, who says he's been working hard on this since last June, says there was no opposition to this until the first reading 2 weeks ago. Mr. Soretta, do you want to reconsider that statement? Mr. Revolt was at that meeting, the Water Board, December 21st, which, by the way, was kind of meant to be kind of secret, but 3 of us showed up, Mr. Revolt, Mrs. Roll, and myself. I've got a videotape of the meeting. The minute it came out of your mouth, we were in opposition. So why would you make a fool of yourself and say publicly there has been no opposition until 2 weeks ago? The property is owned by developer Bob Dehoff, and he's got a prospective customer, Omni Orthopedics. Cities nationwide expand their borders on a daily basis by providing services, most especially sewer and water. But they also provide police and fire. Back in 1961, City of North Canton annexed 628 acres in one fell swoop and increased its population by 3,000 when it annexed all that property along 55th Street from Main Street all the way to Market. If North Canton is to maintain a meaningful presence in this future, it's going to have to grow. If it does not grow, it's going to become insignificant. And that wouldn't help the future of Walsh University, would it, Mr. Jason? As you can tell, I'm not a blue sky and sunshine kind of person. You need to look at every issue and look at the downside. That's never done. That's why many of these are up here for 20 some odd years. And that same mindset goes with the voters. They have no idea who they're voting for. If they're handsome, good looking, a good friend, they get the vote. Look at their records. We have two here smiling people, and I won't mention their names, who a good many times don't even show up for council meetings. About 4 weeks ago, there was an executive session meeting scheduled at 6 p.m. They didn't even have a quorum. That means they didn't have enough people to conduct the meeting. Only 3 out of the 7 members showed up. They had to cancel the executive session. A few weeks ago, the Zoning Board of Appeals, which Mr. Held was just swearing in someone to, they only had 3 of the 5 members show up. They had to cancel the whole meeting. They had 5 applicants there. One family brought their attorney, who sat there for an hour or so waiting for someone to show up who didn't. You had 4 others who had family and support and done a lot of research. All you're going to see out of this group up here is blue sky and sunshine and how great things are.
1 minute remaining, Chuck.
All right, thank you. We have something else that hasn't come out. I'm very glad to come out here, Mr. Jason. We could do this under a different basis. It's costing taxpayers approximately $500 to come out here because they've had to arrange for alternative methods for live streaming the meeting. So they had to pay somebody to arrange that. Taxpayers have already spent thousands of dollars to arrange for this at City Hall. They've also had to bring in a court reporter, and I don't know where she's sitting. That's also going to cost several $100s. So we've been told close to $500. This is about as good an idea, wasting taxpayer dollars, as the proposed island that they had on East Maple Street, which cost $25,000 to put it in and take it out.
Your time is up. Thank you, Chuck.
I do have some handouts here for you. I'll leave with the clerk. This is a letter from Superintendent Wendorf, who has stated they are opposed to tax abatements, which you guys are embarking on doing again.
I got it. I got you, Chuck. Thank you. I appreciate the comments.
Thank you. I bet you do.
All right. If anyone else wishing to address council, please step forward, state your name and address.
I am Tiffany Link. I live at 815 Briar Avenue. And I wanted to suggest that council not agree to provide water services to orthopedic property management without annexation. As a resident, I have a vested interest in this community, especially as a property owner. For years I've heard the mantra repeated over and over, bring business to North Canton, replace the funds lost by the departure of the Hoover Company. And I say this not as a recent resident, I've been here my entire life. Elementary on up. You have the opportunity to do that very thing now. Water is a valuable resource. It's a negotiating tool that you have to utilize. If we don't use it to its fullest potential and instead concede to the demands of a single prospective business, regardless of the size of that entity, we risk setting a dangerous precedent that can harm or void future city development. As our representatives, you have a duty to advocate on our behalf. As Mayor Held succinctly said previously, you cannot be afraid to fail. That includes being willing to go forward and not fail on saying no. Being able to say, we are not going to negotiate, you need to annex into the city. And being willing to deal with the possibility of them refusing to build. Please stop placing levies on us, increasing taxes on the constituents to try and make up for the loss of business. You have the opportunity now to grow the city and stabilize its future economic development. Please seize the opportunity by saying no to the water without annexation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tiffany. All right, anyone else wishing to address council, please step forward, state your name and address. Okay, seeing none, we will move on to old business. We have a motion and a second to read by title only, the third reading of ordinance number 11-18.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7. An ordinance repealing North Canton Ordinance Number 44, 2017, and thereby amending Chapter 145, Planning Commission, specifically 145.01, Transcription Distribution of Minutes of the codified ordinances of the City of North Canton.
Thank you, Chairman Revolt.
Thank you, Mr. President. For the students who are here, Ohio law requires, first of all, Ohio law regulates public meetings, public body meetings, and it requires that minutes be kept of those meetings. We have 2 here under consideration. This for the Planning Commission, then a second for the Zoning Board of Appeals, the following piece of legislation. The minutes, and the statute's fairly clear, must be able to convey what happened and why it happened. And we've conducted a little experiment, and we've concluded that the best way to fulfill that statutory requirement is to have a verbatim transcript of those meetings. This meeting tonight, for example, has a verbatim transcript. We have a court reporter here to prepare that transcript for us. The idea is we're trying to maintain a historical record. So at some point in the future, when we're all retired, a younger council person, perhaps one of you, will go back, ask a question about a meeting. How did this happen? You can look at the transcript, see who was there, what was said, how the vote unfolded. So the other point that we're going to have tonight is you're going to hear third reading, first reading, emergency. Our rules require that we give each piece of legislation 3 separate readings. This is the third and final reading. Once the mayor signs it, it will be effective 30 days after his signature. However, we're going to do some others that will have an emergency clause. We need 6 votes to pass them, and those become effective immediately upon the mayor's signature. So we're going to see 2 kinds of legislation move through the process tonight. So, that's it, sir?
Yes, sir.
I'll have a motion to adopt the third reading of Ordinance 11-2018.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7.
All right, thank you. Motion and a second to read by title only, the third reading of ordinance number 12-18.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7. An ordinance repealing North Canton Ordinance Number 45, 2017, and thereby amending Chapter 147, Zoning and Building Standards Board of Appeals, specifically 147.01, Transcription Distribution of Minutes of the codified ordinances of the City of North Canton.
Thank you. Chairman Revolt.
I don't think we need to add anything. I move to adopt.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7.
All right, thank you. Chairman Soretta, a few comments before this?
Yeah, I guess I would make that.
Yeah.
The next ordinance is the one that you heard people speak a lot. We've been talking about this for, well, we've been working on it for about 9 months, and it's really come out over the last month or so. And
It's Chairman Soretta.
yes, Chairman. So some of the things, as you see here, there's this is a teaching institute, so I'm going to make a few teaching comments here about leadership strategies. I've been teaching leadership for 30 years, and this is a great example of this. in my opinion, of course, with that. We all want the same thing up here. We all want, you can see we're all from different areas, that we want this community to grow and be successful. We just have different opinions sometimes of how that's going to get there. And I want to be very, careful and make sure that we're being guided in the right direction here, because when you look at leaders, and we're all leaders up here, there are two kinds. You have to have a spine to be a leader. You really do. And in my different seminars I've gone to, there's two kinds of little spines. One is called the wishbone. And the wishbone is the one that, with people, I wish that we had that. I wish that the Hoover Company never moved out. I wish that the Hoover Company front lawn could get finished. And for the most part, those people just keep wishing. Nothing ever happens. 90%. Maybe a luck of a draw, somehow something goes on. And then there's the other kind of successful, more successful kind of it's called the backbone, the spine. And that's the kind of guy who sees it, owns it, solves it, and does it. They collaborate, they set plans, they put stuff together, they follow up, and they put timelines and they finish it. And for the most part, people who have backbones are the ones who usually create stuff that actually outlive themselves. That's the kind of thing you want to be. And I think, I'm not going to be derogative on this, but this is a great example of this. Now, the people at Omni, I want to lead it towards that. The great folks at Omni have decided that they don't want our water. They're going to build there no matter what, and they're going to dig a well. So in this particular situation, we get nothing. And we had a situation here, and everybody up here, you don't know that, but everybody up here knew that we're going to get more than just water revenue out of this. Now that's why we had it on the water board, that's why we had confidential, we were negotiating, but we can't sell that, and we're still not going to tell you that. But there was a lot more to this than just water. And so we could go on and just keep wishing that someone is going to come into our community and annex for water. But that has never happened. And that probably won't happen. I would love to see that happen. We can just keep wishing about that. So as we move forward with this, as I mentioned, the good people at Omni did not want all the hoopla and all the drama. And I don't blame them. So they decided they're just going to build it themselves. So I would like to suggest we table this and move on. And hopefully next time, I wish next time we have a better outcome for this. Any motion to table?
I agree with that, and that was a very good update for the people that aren't aware of it.
Okay.
So I move to the table.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7 to table ordinance number 19, 2018.
All right, thank you very much. This time we'll move on to new business. Motion and a second to read by title only the first reading of ordinance number 21-18.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7. An ordinance continuing the Community Reinvestment Area CRA agreement between the City of North Canton and LMD Realty LLC.
Thank you, Chairwoman Keesley.
Yes, this is, CRA stands for Community Reinvestment Area. We are giving tax abatement. Sorry. CRA.
Thank you.
Community Reinvestment Area, we're giving a tax abatement to these next 4 pieces of legislation are all tax abatements on their property taxes. They were agreed upon many years ago, all at different stages, and our Tax Incentive Review Committee reviews these yearly and gives us recommendations whether they're maintaining the agreement, everything that was in the agreement. At this point, they've recommended that we accept all of them and continue them. So I motion to adopt 21-18.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7.
Thank you. Motion and a second to read by title only the first reading of ordinance number 22-18.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7. An ordinance continuing the Community Reinvestment Area CRA agreement between the City of North Canton and Inside Realty LLC.
Chairwoman Keesley.
This is exactly the same piece of legislation, just with a different property owner. The church committee recommended it as well to continue it. Any questions? I motion we adopt.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7.
Thank you. Motion and a second to read by title only the first reading of ordinance number 23-18.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7. An ordinance continuing the Community Reinvestment Area CRA tax incentive agreement between the City of North Canton and 331 Harmon Street Southwest.
Thank you, Chairwoman Keesling.
This is another tax incentive. This is actually for a property owner, a private property owner on Harmon Street. The Turk has recommended we continue the agreement, so I motion we adopt.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7.
Thank you. Motion and a second to read by title only the first reading ordinance number 24-18.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7. An ordinance continuing the Community Reinvestment Area CRA tax incentive agreement between the City of North Canton and 1303 and 1305 North Main Street.
Thank you, Chairwoman Keesling.
And this is the last piece of legislation for the CRA. The Turk has also recommended we continue this agreement. I motion we adopt.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7.
All right, thank you. Motion and a second to read by title only the first reading ordinance number 25-18.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7. An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the City of North Canton to enter into a lease agreement between the city and the North Canton Little League.
Thank you, Chairman Foltz.
Thank you. Pat Diorio, our administrator, who is not here tonight, renegotiated our lease agreement. I say that just to mean that he just condensed a lot of language we had with the 20-year lease that we currently have with the Little League complex, which is right near the Walsh Athletic, I'll call that complex area, which is a beautiful part of North Canton. And we really appreciate our Little League. They do good things for our small residents and their families that come out and enjoy the facilities. But it's a 15-year lease. We lease that to the Little League for $1 a year. The city owns the property. And it's just been a good collaborative working relationship. With that, without any other questions from council, we discussed it at length at the last committee meeting. I'll make a motion to approve the first reading.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7.
Thank you. Motion and a second to read by title only the first reading ordinance number 26-18.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7. An ordinance authorizing the Director of Administration of the City of North Canton to advertise music bids according to specifications now on file in the Director's office, and authorizing the Mayor of the City of North Canton, upon Board of Control approval, to enter into a contract for the Bechtel Street Southeast Rehabilitation Project at a total cost not to exceed $500,000, and declaring the same to be an emergency.
Thank you, Chairman Fontaine.
Okay, what this is, it's on an emergency, so some of the conversations, first reading, second, third reading, and emergency. Emergency is just more of time is of the essence. In this particular case, we have a construction project for the road rehabilitation of a portion of Bechtel in North Canton, and it'll be curb, gutter, and catch basins, which are the part underneath the ground that catches the water and puts it away so that we don't have flooding as much. So it's a nice upgrade. It's an expensive one, of course, because it's expensive to do this. And time is of the essence because of the time of year. We want to get it done, get the engineering done, and get everything ordered so we get this project done before the snow flies again. So I recommend that we pass this on an emergency.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7.
Thank you. Motion and a second to suspend the rules of council for 3 readings.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7.
Thank you. Motion and a second to adopt under suspension of the
So
rules.
moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7.
Thank you. Motion and a second to read by title only the first reading ordinance number 27-18.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7. An ordinance permitting the mayor of the city of North Canton to sign a satisfaction of mortgage for a maintenance bond in the amount of $51,853 between the city and McKinley Apple Grove Ltd. for Sanctuary Phase 3 construction project as set forth in instrument number 201705122019787 of the Stark County Officials Record.
Thank you. Chairwoman Ware.
So the next three ordinances all deal with bonds that have been placed on properties. And the reason we do this is to make sure that projects can get completed. Sometimes monies are not available and you may have an organization that decides to leave before the sidewalks or basins are set up. So in this first one, they're removing the amount, it was $51,000 and we're taking it down to $15,000. And then you'll see the other ones are consistent with that. Laura, do you want to comment on anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay. If there isn't any further discussion, I move to adopt.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7.
Thank you. Motion and a second to read by title only the first reading ordinance number 28-18.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7. An ordinance permitting the mayor of the city of North Canton to sign amended and restated sidewalk performance bond between the city and McKinley Apple Grove Ltd. to Sanctuary Phase 3 project as shown on the plat recorded in instrument number 201607210028127 of the Stark County Officials Record.
Thank you. Chairwoman Ware.
It's exactly what I just said in the last one, and we're just moving it down to $15,000 again.
Motion
Move
to adopt. Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7.
Thank you. Motion and a second to read by title only the first reading ordinance number 29-18.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7. An ordinance permitting the mayor of the city of North Canton to sign a modification of mortgage for an amended and restated sidewalk performance bond between the city and McKinley Apple Grove Ltd. for Sanctuary Phase 3 construction project as set forth in instrument number 201705120019786 of the Stark County Officials Record.
Chairwoman Ware.
I move to adopt.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7.
Thank you. Motion and a second to read by title only first reading ordinance number 30-18.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7. An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of North Canton to enter into a management agreement to have the YMCA of Central Stark County, YMCA, manage the city's Dogwood swimming pool and associated facilities' day-to-day operations during the 2018 season and declaring the same to be an emergency.
Thank you. Chairwoman Ware.
Okay, so we talked about this last time, and it's just an updated management agreement between the city and the Y, and we talked about how we're going to split revenue and who's going to pay utilities, and the benefit with working with the Y. And for the students here, we have an incredible student rate. So if you're here during the summer, and many of you live in Stark County, and maybe many of you have been going to the pool, but it's a huge, huge community asset. And I think when you think about new families that are moving into the community, this is one of the reasons they want to live here, because of the pool, and it gives people things to do, and it's so reasonable. So if you're not a member, you need to join. So on that note, I move to adopt.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7.
Thank you. Motion and a second to suspend the rules of council.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7.
Motion and a second to adopt under suspension.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7.
Thank you. Motion and a second to read by title only, first reading, ordinance number 31-18.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7. An ordinance amending ordinance number 62, 2015, chapter 192, income tax, specifically portions of sections 192.03, imposition of tax, and 192.05, annual return filing, adding section 192.26, election, to the subject to Ohio Revised Code sections 718.00 to 718.0.96, and renumbering the reserved for future use section from 192.26 and 192.27.
Thank you, Chairwoman Warren.
We talked about this last week in committee too, and we work with an agency called RITA that we started with Laura when she started to work here. And it just helps us collect our income tax. It's a great collaboration, and we've seen a lot more revenue because of it. So when we talk about collaboration, it's another area that we've done that in. So this is just updated language, and this happens a lot in different committees where you have to update certain sections to meet the new state code. That's all it is. So I move to adopt.
Second?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7.
All right, thank you. Motion and a second to read by title only, first reading of ordinance number 32-18.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7. An ordinance authorizing the Director of Administration of the City of North Canton to advertise and receive bids, and authorizing the mayor upon Board of Control approval to enter into a contract for the purchase of gasoline and diesel fuel for the use by all city departments for either a 1-year or 2-year period commencing January 1st, 2018, and declaring the same to be an emergency.
Thank you, Chairwoman Warren.
Okay, so another thing the Finance and Property Committee gets involved with is bids that go out. So whether you're buying different utility trucks or different things like this, gasoline and diesel, we always have to bid those out. And it's a closed bidding system, and it always goes through Finance. So we talked about this last time, and this is for gasoline and diesel, and I move to adopt. And this is on emergency.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7.
Thank you. Motion and a second to suspend the rules of council.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7.
Thank you. Motion and a second to adopt under suspension.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7.
All right, thank you. Motion and a second to read by title only, first reading, ordinance number 33-18.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7. An ordinance authorizing the supplemental appropriation of funds of the City of North Canton to be appropriated from the unappropriated resources of the general fund to the maintenance of facilities and professional services account in the total amount of $26,000 for the current expenses during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2018.
Thank you, Chairwoman Warren.
Okay, just like your checking accounts, we often move monies around from one checking account to another, and Laura's been really good about having us keep certain funds appropriated at different times. So this $26,000 is for the court reporters, which we talked about how we needed to have accurate records and in a timely manner, and also a flagpole that we were thinking about, or other uses for a Blue Star Memorial that's going to be here this summer. And actually the groundbreaking is Thursday. So I move to adopt.
Second?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7.
All right, since appropriations do not require 3 readings, we will only adopt under suspension of the rules. So we have a motion and a second to adopt under suspension.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7.
All right, Thank you. Motion and a second to read by title only, first reading, ordinance number 34-18.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7. An ordinance authorizing a supplemental appropriation of funds of the City of North Canton to be appropriated from the unappropriated resources of the Issue 2 Improvement Fund to the contract payments OPWC account in the total amount of $152,000 for the current expenses during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2018.
Thank you. Chairwoman Warren.
So this is exciting because this is grant monies and we apply for a lot of grants. Our engineer department is, and especially Rob, since you've come, you've done an amazing job with helping us get grants for different projects. So this is one that's going to help our roads for $152,000. We talked about it last time and I moved to adopt.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7.
And motion and a second to adopt under suspension of the rules.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7.
All right, thank you. Motion and a second to read by title only, first reading, ordinance number 35-18.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7. An ordinance authorizing a supplemental appropriation of funds of the City of North Canton to be appropriated from the unappropriated resources of the Water Operating Fund to the Transfers Interfund account in the amount of $1,200,000 for the current expenses during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2018.
Thank you. Chairwoman Warren.
So this happened last year. It was just an accounting error. Kind of sometimes when you forget to carry something to the next page and you have been writing it down, and then it just doesn't make it to the last copy. So that happened, and Laura could have just kind of come to us and said that, but she wanted to make an ordinance of it for the amount of that's noted, and we talked about it last time, and I moved to adopt. Thank you for being so conscientious.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7.
And motion and a second to adopt under suspension of the rules.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7.
All right, thank you. Motion and a second to read by title only, first reading, ordinance number 36-18.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7. An ordinance authorizing a supplemental appropriation of funds of the City of North Canton to be appropriated from the unappropriated resources of the Garbage Service Fund to the Operating Supplies account in a total amount of $25,000 for the current expenses during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2018.
Thank you. Chairwoman Warren.
So our city does a great job of recycling, and you may see those containers a lot throughout the week with the big green ones. And we worked hard to really get those for our city. A lot of the money, or not a lot, but a decent amount can come back to us that we can use for the city. So we're taking money that has been in that fund, and we hope to use it to buy, it has to go to other recyclable items or programs. So some of the monies we've used are for what we send newsletters to people and some different things, the bags that people use throughout the cities to collect the leaves and different things. But we're also redoing our porch. You may have seen on Main Street the construction that's going on. So we're going to be buying recyclable porch furniture and trash cans and different things to keep in the spirit of recycling. And I move to adopt.
Second.
And that's it from me.
That's enough.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7.
Thank you. Motion and a second to adopt under suspension of the rules.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7.
All right, thank you. Now, motion and a second to read by title only, first reading, resolution number 5-18.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7. An ordinance continuing the community reinvestment area, CRA. Ooh, I have the wrong one. resolution pursuant to Ohio Revised Code sections 3735.65 and 3736.66, designating the administrator as the city's housing officer to administer sections 3735.65 to 3736.66 of the Ohio Revised Code of all community reinvestment areas.
Correct. Yeah, Chairwoman Keys.
Yes. Previously, our housing officer was in a position that we've currently eliminated, so we needed to figure out who was going to be our housing officer. Again, I'm not loud enough, really? I'm like, really?
First time for everything.
Exactly. We are now designating our housing officer as our director of administration, who is not here tonight. The actual job title, not the person, as we currently do not have a housing officer. And this is to manage our community reinvestment areas, which I had spoke about in the 4 previous pieces of legislation. So I motion we adopt.
So moved. Or second.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7.
All right, thank you. That concludes our legislative portion of the meeting. Now we're going to be moving into reports. We'll go around the table. Each individual will have an opportunity to talk about whatever they want, what's happening in their ward, the city, speak about this meeting. So we will start at the left. Member Fonte.
Thank you for the opportunity. I just wanted to say thank you all students, president, doctor. We're thrilled to be here, and this is my first time in the building, other than the luncheons and things like that. I'd like to say that we're excited about the new program that you have in the city of North Canton, taking over that spot to help community development. I think as a chamber, North Canton and Walsh University, with all the young minds, I think it's a great opportunity for us. And my goal, knowing the demographics of North Canton and looking at the millennials make up 82 million in the U.S., and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. I'm seeing a lot of them right now. My children are also that. And the kind of the things that they want are what we're looking for in this development, because we do want you to come back to the community, because that helps boost the income tax as well, because you're entrepreneurs, you're going to make good money, I guarantee it. So I want to see that happen. And I know you want to see more bike trails, walking past cafes, shops, go green. So I see a lot of good potential here in the city. We're changing the MSB, Main Street Business District, so we're using a lot of modern tools, hopefully, to do that. So this is going to be a fun place to live, work, and play. And just like Washington Square across the street there, what a nice facility, right? So we want to see that continue down the road and up and down Cleveland Avenue. So we look forward to your bright ideas and the Shark Tank. I'm looking forward to meeting those folks. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks again for having us, Dr. Akers, Dr. Gisome, Derek Wyman. Derek was a past leadership graduate, and again, you've just been so positive with the different programs that we've had. You know, as your Ward 3 council person, honestly, if you see things that need changed, or the potholes, or want to tell me you have water somewhere, or you're renting a house that is substandard or something, I am the first person that you should probably contact, and a lot of people don't know why they call you. But I typically can get results a little bit faster than you can. People respond. We had those rains last week, and the director of engineering and myself were on the phone and made a couple site visits last week, and it wasn't a great situation, and we're working on it. But if those things happen, people feel desperate and they don't get the phone calls, and we aren't open 24 hours, and so you have to wait. But your council person is open 24 hours, and we answer the phone any time of the day. And often we do come out to your residence and we meet with you and we listen, and that's our job. And we don't always have the answers, by all means. When I was talking with about water, I kept saying, we have to call the director of engineering. This is not my expertise. This is not what I know, and I can think about this, but it doesn't make sense. And so, you get the right people involved. So that's what we do, and if you have those situations, please let us know. Tonight I was watching the Cleveland News, and they had people that had come up with these apps for the city. Did anyone else see those? The city's using it. Canton's using it now. RJ was on, and we've talked about it. But if you guys are making apps that you think would be cool for the city, or my son uses that tap and go thing at Ohio State, and you have these food deliveries and all the things that you're doing. Our businesses will do that, and we want to work with you for that. So just thanks again for letting us be here, and we really do want to work with you, and we want young people involved. And David has asked, many times, like, hey, are there people that can be on commissions and park commissions and zoning? And if that's something that interests you, let us know, because we want to get young people involved. So thank you.
Thank you. And I apologize to the court reporter. That was Stephanie Warren. Next up is Marcia Keesley.
Thank you.
I just want to again say thank you for having us here tonight. This was very, very fun, and I hopefully everybody else enjoyed it. Again, I'm not loud enough. Thanks for having us, President Gisone. My only report is Fieldcrest. I think we're getting really close to getting the zoning completed and working with the owner, and hopefully get the process moving along. It's at least positive at the moment, so that's it.
Darrell Revolt.
Thank you, President Gisone, for hosting us this evening. The facility's lovely, and I hope your students are as proud of it as you are and all of us are. You had mentioned the desire to work with us, and I wanted to let your students know something that you already know, and that is that we have, through Doug Lane at the Chamber, and Bill Strominger, we had what I hope will be our first quarterly meeting with a member of your administrative team. The idea is that we're going to get together at least once a quarter just to talk about any issues that may be on our agenda, respectively. It's better to have the relationships in advance of the problem or the challenge, and we think that this is a remarkable thing. Mark knows that we're going to be revisiting our master plan, as does the council president. We'd like to come back, pick up what is left undone, if we can get to it financially. That will involve obviously a longer process, but I can assure you that Walsh will be a part of those discussions, and those conversations will get reflected in some of those chamber, city, Bill Strominger meetings. I think the other thing is this, is that as you've heard, there's an inarticulated vision of a future community. I think we all kind of sense where we'd like to go. We're not really sure how we get there. And that's really the big challenge. The easy part is to say, I want to be there. The question is, what does the roadmap look like to get there? And more importantly, how do you pay for it? I think the opportunity to utilize students for your Institute for Community Redevelopment is absolutely intriguing, because they can do something that we can't, and that is bring research to issues. Particularly impressive will be the ability to incorporate a multidisciplinary approach. Not only do you have to have vision, you have to market it, you've got to figure out how to finance it. And that's a great role for students to look at and become familiar with the tools that are available. So I'm looking forward to this down the road. It won't happen overnight, but I think the will collectively is here, Rich, to do something, and the time's right.
Thank you. Mike Zaretta.
Well, as you can see, there's a lot of different aspects of the city being run, and we've been talking about 30-some things here. It's more than just fixing roads and collecting your garbage. So I hope you learned something from all the different things that we have to talk about, we have to look into. That's why we have different chair people, so they can be in charge of that, so everybody doesn't have to do one specific thing. They take charge of that. So if you haven't noticed that, that's where we have different people leads. One of the things I wanted to mention when I was up earlier about Walsh here, because the place has grown spectacular. And if you come here as a student, and you all have, but as a parent, when you come here and you look at this place, and you look at what is around here, all right, first of all, you see a very safe and clean place. You look across the street, and there's everything that your child could possibly want because of the developers that put that over there, whether it be a grocery store, an ice cream place, a Starbucks, a mail place. And within less than a mile, you have downtown North Canton, where your police is and all the other amenities, and you have Belton Village within 2 miles or so. So that's another, and Walsh is just in the perfect spot for that. You don't have to go to those places. You can sit here and be in a nice little quaint area here. So another fabulous aspect of this community in this town. One thing I wanted to mention is the Gold Star groundbreaking. Gold Star is a memorial that we're putting up in the, I would say, the south side of Price Park where the walking track is, and it has to do with the Gold Star family. It's for the families. And we're having the groundbreaking at Thursday at 10 a.m. And the main person, what do you want to call him, the chairman, if you want to call him, Woody Williams. He's the guy that flipped the coin at the Super Bowl this year. That old gentleman, the Medal of Honor winner. This is the Gold Star is really in recognition. He's like the leader of this, and he will be here Thursday. And again, it's just a groundbreaking. The ceremony to finish it is in July. I believe it's July 7th. But we will have a couple shovels there, and we'll have the mayor and anybody who wishes to come down there. Feel free to come down and see something like that. Hopefully the weather will be a lot better. But I wanted to make sure that everybody knows about that and can make that. And there'll be a lot of different veterans there too that they're bringing in. So that's all I have to report, Jay.
Thank you. Doug Volz.
Thank you. During public speaks, it was mentioned how much this costs to have a meeting here. It was mentioned how much this costs to have a meeting here. I think it's well worth the dollars. I think we can probably see how we set up here, and next year probably refine that. Maybe have the equipment more in sync for recording and so forth. Obviously, you know, the crews here from Walsh are excellent with the students videotaping us and putting us on camera. So I think it's a great thing, and I hope to do it every year. It's nice and very refreshing to see 40 college students at a meeting. I mean, that probably wouldn't happen down in our council chambers because you guys are busy, you're studying, you're coming here because you're on campus, you don't have to worry about walking or getting in a car and coming down. And I think it's important, and we're accessible to come to you because you are such a big part of our future in our community. So I want to thank again to President Gisome for the invitation. It's been a really good evening here tonight. I appreciate that. And on another point, Rob, I'm sure you heard Central Allied is now making hot mix. So what that means is the potholes now can be permanently repaired while we're waiting to redo the streets. In the winter, as an educational point, they put something in called cold mix, which doesn't hold up very well in the potholes. North Canton is probably in a great position versus a lot of communities as far as how our streets and curb and gutter are holding up. We've been very progressive with that, something I'm very proud of. When you drive our streets and our neighborhoods, you know, we're in pretty good shape. We really are, and we're very fortunate, and that takes leadership from this council, our finance, and our engineer, and so forth. But it's very refreshing to know the spring is here now. Central Allied is making hot mix so we can make some permanent street improvements. So that's all I have. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. I also would like to thank President Gisome, Dr. Akers for putting this together, all your hard work. We definitely need your feedback here, and I'm glad that Doug mentioned the cost. You know, most of that cost is to pay for the recording and live streaming of this meeting, which is being conducted by Hoover High School students, and I believe Glen Oak. We have Glen Oak students here as well. And special thanks to Josh Branch, who's Director of Media at Glen Oak, and Tim McCarty, Director at the Hoover High School. Tom Wilson couldn't make it tonight, but a collaborative effort between two local high schools, and you're doing a very good job. Also, I wanted to touch briefly on what we heard before the meeting. Brandon Neal, Bill Arafas, I hope I'm saying that correct, student leaders. I wanted to mention again the garage. They're having this Friday 11 to 2 at the David Center. I'm going to try to be here for that. I think that'd be pretty interesting. You know, I want to briefly touch on an issue that was talked about in public speaks. Melanie, Chuck, and Tiffany, ordinance number 1928, and that's the one that we tabled, and that was the Omni water deal. Those deals are very nuanced, and annexation is very nuanced as well. It wasn't as simple as, hey, if you want our water, you got to come in. It wasn't that simple. Now we're hearing that they're willing to move forward and build the well, and we get nothing out of it. It's a chance that we took by making the stand. You know, it could have resulted in $12,000 a year in water revenue.
120. No, not water.
Water.
Oh,
10,
water.
Yeah. 10,000. Yeah. So, you know, you can't force people to come into the city. If they don't want to be in, they're not coming in. As as a person that's born and raised in this community, I love this community, it's shocking to me that they don't want to be here. But there are income tax issues. Put your hand down, Mr. Osborne.
You can't
There
have
are.
a sprinkler system in a
Mr.
healthcare
Osborne,
facility
Mr. Osborne,
on a well.
Mr. Osborne, please. Listen to Melanie.
Well, quit telling people lies.
Listen to Melanie. You can't force people to come in. You just can't. And if we could, we would have. I would love to have those jobs in the city. I'd also love to have the water revenue. Turns out we're not going to get either. So, you know, that's a chance we took. But for the students that are here, you know, annexation is very nuanced. You know, and I think based on the public comments that you heard, it sounded as simple as, well, have them come in if you want to, if they want the water, have them come in. It really isn't that simple. And I would ask you to do some of the research on your own and find out exactly how that process works. It would serve you well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Director of Law Fox.
President Chisholm and Dr. Akers, again, all Walsh University, thank you for hosting us. What's happening in the law department is a little bit of everything that you heard this evening, as well as kind of the tip of the iceberg. The law department, both you certainly don't want to call it a burden, because it is a pleasure to have the opportunity to work and invest your time and effort in things that you know benefit the city. It's also frustrating, as Council President had said, that some people bring in suggestions that, as you said, just tell them no. And of course they're going to want your water. And if you've ever participated in collective bargaining, it's much like that. You sit across with union representatives and management representatives, and you try to come to an accord. And sometimes you can't quite get there. And that, again, is some of the frustration, but also some of the immense reward that you have in just having a touch of some of that participating in those things. So for those that are in the Shark Tank, absolutely the things that you have to think about for your projects are, there's the intellectual property, patent, trademark, all of those other things. So when you graduate here from Walsh University, perhaps you'll pursue a career in the law. And I have to tell you, it's one of the most rewarding things that I've ever done. It's one of the most demanding, anguishing, frustrating, but also thrilling things that I've done. So what's happening in the law department, as I said, is a little bit of everything that you heard here this evening, and quite a bit is the tip of the iceberg. But for those that wish to talk about that, my office is always open for those that sometimes they'll touch base and ask about what happens there. So you're always welcome to do that. So I want to make sure you're aware of that, and thank you for having us.
Thank you. Finance Director Brown.
Thank you. Thank you, Walsh, for hosting us in your beautiful facility. And thanks to the students who are still hanging in there. We're nearing the 2-hour mark, so we're staying strong. Appreciate it. Two things to report from the finance office. One being we are very near to tax day. Taxes are due next Tuesday, the 17th. Our taxes are, as Stephanie mentioned earlier, remitted through Regional Income Tax Agency, or RITA. She's not a person, she's just an agency. Everybody asks me who she is. But taxes all need to be sent to RITA, not to City Hall. We, of course, will forward things on that we receive. We get a lot in the Dropbox this time of year, but they will not be stamped in as on time if they come to us. They need to go to RITA. So if you have any constituents asking, please send those on up to Cleveland. The second thing I'll just report is the new city website has gone live. It's been live for a couple weeks. We're still working on a few bugs. I know Mary Beth's been using it quite frequently to post the agendas and the minutes and the calendars for these events, which has been great. It's one of the nice things when you work for a kind of small to medium-sized organization like the city is you wouldn't traditionally see a finance department working on a website, but we get to wear a lot of hats, and that's kind of interesting and something I never thought I'd be a part of, but it's been really fun to learn. So I think either next week or the week after, we'll have a presentation for council of the features of the site and go over that for everybody. Thank you.
Mayor Howell.
Yes, you know, it's interesting. Sometimes there's an ESPN show, I think it's called Behind the Scenes, or what's the name of that? They show the rest of the story. What is it, 30 for 30? Yeah, okay. So they show the, you know, they give you an idea of what really went on behind the scenes. Well, one example is getting this meeting to Walsh. Now you would think that we put men on the moon, you know. We could certainly get a council meeting over here at Walsh. And so we have, as President Jusome had mentioned, we've been doing it, trying to get the meeting here, at least as long as I've been mayor for 13 years. And so we decided, Councilman Soretta, he serves as the liaison between the schools and between Walsh. And so he said, we've got to have a meeting at Walsh. And I said, I think it's a great idea. And I like to consider myself an optimist, but I'm also a realist at times. And so he said, let's put this together. So I think we had tried it a couple of years ago, and it all came down to the recording. We have a special recording piece of equipment that doesn't allow people to crosstalk. So it's like multiple recorders. So if two people are talking at the same time, it can pick up what each individual council member is saying, so that when you type out the meeting minutes, they're accurate. So the person's words are accurate. It doesn't come up as inaudible. And so, so there's been a number of times where we tried to do this meeting. And Mark, as you can see, he's a very strong-willed individual, right? And so he was in charge of getting this meeting together here, and I was behind him. I was supporting him. And then a week before, Mark, you were on vacation, right? And we determined, once again, we were not going to have the meeting here at Walsh. And this was after Councilman Soretta had talked to Mr. Akers and Mr. Jusome. And so I got a call from our administrator, said that Walsh is not going to happen. I'm like, why not? The recorder. Can't get the recorder over here. And I said, well, is everybody in agreement with this? You know, have you talked to Councilman Soretta yet? And he said, no, but I talked to the council president. He's going to call him and let him know. I said, okay. Well, I thought, well, we'll see how this goes. And then about 20 minutes later, my phone's ringing, and it was Councilman Soretta calling me. He said, what's going on with the Walsh meeting? I said, well, Jeff Peters? Yeah, he said they canceled it. I said, is that what he said, they canceled it? And he said, yeah, that's not going to happen. He said, we are having this meeting at Walsh. And he goes, there is no way I am going back to Walsh and telling them that this meeting is canceled. Do you know how much time and effort we put into planning this? And I was like, I understand, I'm with you. And little did he know, like 10 minutes earlier, I was telling the administrator, well, it looks like it's canceled, like we're not going to do it again. And so I said, okay, well.
Backbone, Dave.
Right.
What's that?
Wishbone or backbone.
Exactly, wishbone or backbone. So Mark was thinking I was a wishbone, right, at the time. And I probably was a little bit of a wishbone at that time. So what I did was I called back the administrator and I said, we're going to have this meeting. We've got to, we put men on the moon. We can certainly find a way to hold the meeting at Walsh. So we started brainstorming and came up with having a court reporter and also Hoover High School, right? Our council president called to get Hoover High School videotape, because then we figured if we don't have that special recorder, we could at least, through the court reporter, through the video, that we're going to get this done. And so, it was one person who was determined to do it, but it was everybody else then coming in behind. you know, and so 1 minute I'm you know, supporting the charge to, well, we're not going to have it. And I'm thinking to myself, well, that's why we haven't had it for 13 years. And then when one person refuses to accept that, people start to rally around and you get it done. There's one other example of a Walsh student, and that was Mary Modena, who's graduating. So she was Person of the Year at Walsh, right?
Right.
This is another example, and this is perfect for you Walsh students. During the day, I work at the recycling district, so we're responsible to put recycling programs in each municipality and each township. And also the universities and the schools, and the one area that we have not had success in was at Walsh. And so I've had numerous students that would call me about getting, you know, over the years, about getting a recycling program, you know, within the dorms and within the buildings. And so it just never seemed to come about because you have to get so many different aspects coordinated. You have to get somebody that can collect the recycling internally in each building. And then you have to get them to transfer that recycling along with the waste out to the bins that are located outside of the dormitories. And then you have to have enough space. So most of the little pads, where the concrete pads where you have the waste bins, you also have to expand it so that you can have recycling bins, so a recycling truck can pick it up. So there's a lot of expense and logistics that go into this. So usually it's about every other year I get a call from a Walsh student saying, we'd like to have recycling. I said, well, okay, and of course I had one of my staff members, I said, well, another student from Walsh called and said they want to start recycling. And this poor young lady doesn't realize that it's not going to happen. This is what I'm thinking, right? So Mary Medina calls me, I'd like to really start a recycling program here, and I'll do whatever I have to make sure that we get it done. And I said, Mary, you sound like a very nice lady, and I'd love to get it done. I've been trying to do it here for 13 years. But just because I have failed to do it doesn't mean that she's going to fail at doing it. So I said, but it's a real tough obstacle. I said, why don't you talk to Mr. Jusson, the president, and then you've got to go and count every garbage can, find out what your financial needs are going to be. And I said, when you count every garbage can in Walsh, give me a call back. Because that's like another little test, too, that I would do when you have students calling, is you give them some work. 90% of people that call, if you give them work, they don't follow through on it. Right? Because like, oh, forget it. I want a recycling program. I was looking for a grant. I don't want to go count garbage cans. So she calls me back a week later, and she says, oh, I'm still interested in that recycling. And I said, well, you know, you got to go and count every garbage can and give us a count. And if you were able to, you know, give us a number, then maybe we'll consider a grant. And of course, we didn't have any money budgeted at the district at the time. But I just didn't think she was going to go and do this. Well, she said, oh, I have it done. And I said, well, what do you have done? She said, I counted all the garbage cans. And you know, I think there was like 336 that she was going to have to put a recycling bin next to. And I go, oh, you did? I said, well then, you know, I'd like for you to put it into a report so that we can, you know, pass it on to our finance director. She goes, well, I have that already too. I'm thinking, oh boy, now I started feeling hot because I'm thinking, how are we gonna fund this? So I got the report in the email, went over to our finance director. She said, David, you know we don't have any money. This would be like, I think it was about $20,000, wasn't it? A little over $20,000. And so I gave this young lady, you know, my word. I said, if you can get this done, and you can, I said, so is the president in agreement with this? Oh, yes, he is. Did you talk to him? Oh, yes, I did. Did you talk to the custodians? Yes, I did talk to the custodians. Are they all in agreement with it? Yes. Are their bosses in agreement? So I went through this whole process. She said everybody's in agreement with it. So she said the only thing I need now are the recycling bins. And I still was kind of a little skeptical because I never met this lady before, you know, just on the phone. So we ended up getting together, we applied for the grant, and we did come up with the money because like Mark had said, when I told our finance director at the district, I said, I am not calling this young lady back and telling her no. So we are going to find the money one way or the other. And sure enough, now you have recycling in the dorms, right? Or recycling on campus, but it's because one person refused to quit and then got everybody else rallied around. So you got 2 examples here tonight, and I think this is great. As a matter of fact, I like this site so much. Maybe we have all of our council meetings here. Or at least one a year, right? So that's all. Thank you.
Engineer Graham. Thank you, Mr. President. I guess let's talk a little bit back on March 23rd. We opened bids for our annual residential street paving program. You've all seen the list. We've got it on our Facebook site that you can access through the city's website. And bid opening went real well. We had allocated $852,000. $700,000 was in the budget, and then the other $152,000 was that grant money for a big South Main project that we were able to then keep our residential streets since we had that. So the bid opening went well. We had 4 contractors submit bids. We tried to put together an $852,000 program. And we also took an alternate bid for Maple Crest Street, see if we had enough money, and knew we were pretty close. 2 bids were right around the $850,000 without Maple Crest. The 4th and highest was well over $900,000. But we did get a low bid, including the Maple Crest alternate, from North Star Asphalt in the amount of $797,887.30. To Board of Control actually last Monday awarded that job to North Star. And they've already gotten started. You've probably seen like the Lindy Lane and the other streets that are actually painting out the catch basins to be replaced. So now that the asphalt plants are opening, we'll see that work get started real quick. So, yeah, thanks for having me. Completes my report, Mr. President.
All right, Madam Clerk.
I just have 2 items. One, I am so grateful to have the court reporter tonight. It's one set of minutes I won't have to stress about. And 2, I'm so impressed that everybody didn't talk over each other, so that was great. The other thing is, I am also secretary to the Civil Service Commission. Last week, the commission met to accept the scores for the police officer exam that I had administered late in March. So those letters went out for the test takers to look at their scores, review the exam, and after that 10-day period, the commission will meet again to then accept those scores and establish the eligibility list. And that's it.
All right, thank you very much. Final call to council for new business.
We're just up here. If there's any questions, feel free to come up and ask us.
Very good. One last housekeeping measure for the remainder of April. Monday, April 16th, we have a committee of the whole meeting. Monday, April 23rd will be a regular council meeting, and we will not be meeting the 5th Monday of the month, April 30th. And that concludes our agenda. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? We are adjourned.
Very good.
Mark Wilson, Stark County I'm intrigued about your comments tonight about the Economic Development Institute. Of course, I understand the background where Walsh University has come across this property, like Columbus, right downtown Canton. But you get the building. When did it first dawn on Walsh University
well, we got the buildings.
Yeah, thanks for doing prayer.
We don't have a building downtown. We wanted to do something that would be relevant. We approached a couple of our faculty, downtown development, well, lots of other things.
That's right.
Justice.
Well, what? And it is simple. You either annex if you want to order or you don't.
So we're in the process now of defining it, and a few little side initiatives to take care of. We met with the chamber, which is now our next door neighbor. They're very enthusiastic about it. Yeah, I think we can do some good.
And staff-wise, what did you start off with?
Oh, we'll just have a couple of people.
Students or?
Students will be in and out. There's a large enough space.
What do you think? I didn't even know you were here, Jessica.
Yeah, we've been here the whole time.
Hiding, huh? Oh, both of you there. I didn't even notice.
But we need the desks so we can take notes.
But we'll always have it available for people who need to use the space through our regular calendar.